Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, Group 5 will be presentation the topic about grammar translation method. And the presenter will be me as Azalia, Shafa, Olga, and then there's Aqila, Sinta Budiyanti, and Jihaan Aqiila. Let's get it. Okay, first we have introduction. Before we learn more about grammar translation method, we have to know the history. The grammar translation method is not new. It has had different names, but it has been used by language teacher for many years. At one time, it was called the classical method, since it was first used in the teaching of classical languages by Latin and Greek. Since 1988, that early in this century, this method was used for the purpose of helping students read and appreciate foreign language literature. It was also hoped that though the study of the grammar of the target language, students would become more familiar with the grammar of their native language, and that this familiarity would help them speak and write their native language better.
My name is Aqila Nisfa M, NPM 0919013541. Experience teacher and student in their classroom. The students are asked to read and write a paragraph in a Spanish book, then translate it. The teacher asks if difficulties can ask. When students have no more question, the teacher asks them to answer their question in English. When a student is asked to give the answer but it's wrong, the student can point or choose his friend, and the teacher will give the correct answer. In thinking about experience, observations have been made in the classroom, such as the teacher asks students in their native language if they have any question. A student asks one and is answered in her native language. The principle, the ability to communicate in the target language, is not a goal of foreign language instruction. And also, students write out the answer to reading comprehension question. The principle, the primary skill to be developed are reading and writing. Little attention is given to speaking and listening, and almost none to pronunciation. So they make conclusion based on their own understanding. They will conjure up this conjunction in their own experience, and will raise questions such as why.
Okay, it's Sinta Budiyanti. In here, I'd like to explain the subunit about reviewing the principles. The principles grammar translation method are organized below by answering to the 10 questions posed in Chapter 1. Not all the questions are addressed by the grammar translation method. Number 1. What are the goals of the teacher who used grammar translation method? According to the teacher who used GMT, the purpose of learning foreign language is to be able to read literature written in the target language. So students need to learn about grammar, rules, and vocabulary to the target language. Number 2. What is the role of the teacher? What is the role of the student? The roles are very traditional. The teacher is the authority in the class. Then the student do as she said. Two students can learn what the teachers know. Number 3. What are some characteristics of the teaching or learning process? Students are taught to translate from one language to another. That translate our reading in the target language about some aspect of the culture of the target language community. Students study grammar deductively, that is, they are given grammar rules and examples are told to memorize them, then apply the rules to another examples. Number 4. What is the nature of student-teacher interaction? What is the nature of student-student interactions? Most of the interaction in the classroom is teacher-student interactions. There is the little student invitations and the little student-student interactions. Number 5. What are the feelings of the student deal with? There are no principles of the method which relate to this area. Number 6. How is the language viewed? How is the culture viewed? Literary language is considered superior to spoken language and is therefore the language that students study. Culture is viewed as consisting of literature and the fine arts. Number 7. What areas of language are emphasized? What language skills are emphasized? Vocabulary and grammar are emphasized. Reading and writing are the primary skills that students work on. There is a much less attention given to speaking and listening. Pronunciation receives little if any attention. Number 8. What is the role of the student's native language? The meaning of the target language is made clear by translating into the student's native language. The language that is used in class is mostly the student's native language. Number 9. How is evaluation accomplished? Written text in which students are asked to translate from their native language to be the target language or the vice versa are often used. Questions about the target culture or questions that ask students to apply grammar rules are also common. And the last number, how does the teacher respond to the student errors? Having the student get correct answer is considered very important. If students make errors or do not know the answer, the teacher supplies them with the correct answer. Okay, the next slide will be explaining by Jihaan.
Okay friends, next slide we will discuss about reviewing the techniques with me, Jihaan Aqiila. Reviewing the techniques. Ask yourself if any of the answers to the above question make sense to you. If so, you may choose to try some of the techniques of grammar translation method from the review that follow. On the other hand, you may find that you agree very little with the answer to this question, but that there are still some useful techniques associated with the grammar translation method. Below is an expanded description of some of this technique. Number 1. Translation of a literary passage. Students translate a reading passage from the target language into their native language. The reading passage then provides the focus for several classes. Vocabulary and grammatical structures in the passage are studied in subsequent lessons. The passage may be extracted from the target language literature, or a teacher may write a passage carefully designed to include particular grammar rules and vocabulary. The translation may be written or spoken or both. Students should not translate idioms and the like literally, but rather in a way that shows that they understand their meaning. And then number 2, reading comprehension question. Students answer question in the target language based on their understanding of the reading passage. After the question are sequenced, so that the first group of questions asks for information contained within the reading passage. In order to answer the second group of questions, students will have to make inference based on their understanding of the passage. This means they will have to answer questions about the passage even though the answers are not contained in the passage itself. The third group of questions requires students to relate the passage to their own experience. And then number 3, antonym or synonyms. Students are given one set of words and are asked to find antonyms in the reading passage. A similar exercise could be done by asking students to find synonym for a particular set of words. Our students might be asked to define a set of words based on their understanding of them as they occur in the reading passage. Other exercises that ask students to work with the vocabulary of the passage are also possible. And then number 4, cognatus. Students are taught to recognize cognatus by learning the spelling or sound patterns that correspond between the languages. Students are also asked to memorize words that look like cognatus but have meanings in the target language that are different from those in their native language. This technique, of course, would only be useful in languages that share cognatus. And then number 5, deductive application of rule. In this technique, grammar rules are represented with examples. Exceptions to each rule are also noted. Once students understand a rule, they are asked to apply it to some different examples. And then number 6, fill in the blanks. Students are given a series of sentences with a word missing. They fill in the blanks with a new vocabulary item or with item of a particular grammar type, such as preposition or verbs with different tenses. Next, number 7, memorization. Students are given a list of target language vocabulary words and their native language equivalent and are asked to memorize them. Students are also required to memorize grammatical rules and grammatical paradigm, such as verb conjugation. Next, number 8, use words in sentences. In order to show that students understand the meaning and use of a new vocabulary item, they make up sentences in which they use the new words. And then last, composition. The teacher gives the student a topic to write about the target language. The topic is based upon some aspect of the reading passage of the lesson. Sometimes, instead of creating composition, students are asked to prepare a précis of the reading passage.
Okay, next, the conclusion. The conclusion is you have now had an opportunity to examine the principles and some of the techniques of the grammar translation method. So you have to try make connection between what you have to understood and your own teaching situation and belief. For example, do you think it's important to learn about the target language, or are there any of other technique of the grammar translation method which will have useful into you on your own teaching, and which one? Then ask yourself until you have the technique that make you comfortable and easy to understand. That's all for the presentation for today. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.